So we're into Premiere now, and we're going to carry on editing. I'm going to be on the timeline, chopping up various clips and arranging them. I'm going to be improvising a bit, so hopefully it doesn't go too far awry. Let's jump in, see how we go. If we bugger it up, well, it doesn't matter too much, does it? So back in the spot that we left off, and maybe we'll start by just chopping down this bit of video. Like I found that when they did the recording of the voiceover artist, it was possibly just a little bit too long for the segment that we want. So we need to edit that and cut that down. It's already on the timeline. So how do we cut it and manipulate it? Well, we can do a few different things. I'm going to just open up the width of those channels there so that I can see what I'm doing a little bit more. To edit or manipulate a clip on the timeline, we can grab its ends and we can trim it that way. So both the front and the back, and that's just using our selection tool. Another thing that we could do would be to use our razor tool. Now a razor tool will cut through the clip and create a kind of an incision and a new segment. And that's what I'm going to do with our audio here. And I reckon I'm going to cut about this spot here. And I want to just remove this section. So I'm going to make a cut here. And you can see now that there's a seam in what we've done there. And I'll keep this end bit, so we'll just chop out this kind of middle here, this section here, just to shorten it a bit. So I've made two clips, and I could come and I could take that clip out and move it to a different spot, or indeed I could right click on it and clear it, and that would take it out of the that channel. The other thing that I can do is this thing called ripple delete, and if I delete that segment, it'll sort of truncate those two pieces together, which is kind of what we want, I suppose. And then we're going to move them around on the timeline. So our voice doesn't really come in for the first, not really sure, maybe the first second or so. So I'm going to zoom into the timeline, just move to the front, take my timeline indicator to the 1 second mark. You can see it's 1 second. And with these two clips selected, so I'll need to make sure that there's one, and holding shift down, those two clips selected, I'm going to move that and lock it against my timeline indicator. In the timeline, things should snap together, which is helpful, so that if I'm moving this, it should lock together in that end piece there. So that's kind of good. What should we do next? I think we should start adding a few more other clips, and we might add them in a slightly different way rather than dragging them into the timeline. So we can drag as much as we want from our bin into the timeline and cut using our razor tool and moving things around with our selection tool. But the other way that we can do it is to decide on the edits of our footage before we put it into the timeline. So now I'm just going to drag through and turn down the video itself so that the scrubbing isn't too annoying. We're going to put another bit of footage in there, and we're going to put in the second video. I'm going to double click on this second video, and it's going to open it up in our monitor window here, and I can kind of just look at it and just check out what's been shot there, what the shot's like, and what I could take out of it or what I could use out of it. And so think I want to have our, our man here just walk across that platform for a few seconds and see these sparks appear. So what I can do is go to the spot where I want the next shot to start. That's around about this 1.23 second. And I can create an in point, what they call a mark in. See, this is the mark in and the mark out kind of buttons. So if I hit mark in, it will select everything from that mark in point. I can also use the keyboard shortcut of I for that. So I for in and O for out. And then I'll move my timeline indicator to the spot where I want the end of my clip to be. That's going to be somewhere up here, I don't know. And I'm going to mark in an out point. So I'm clipping this bit of footage and chopping this bit off and chopping this bit and just keeping this middle bit here. And then I can add that to my timeline. So there's a couple of ways I can add things to my timeline. I can just drag that clipping that I've made and pop that where I want it. So something like that. Or the other thing I can do is use these insert or overwrite buttons. The insert button will move everything out of the way and insert our footage, and the overwrite will just plonk it over the top of whatever's there. Excuse me, and it's going to plonk it in the channel that is selected, and I've got V1 selected here, and you can see that you can highlight those different channels. So I've got V1 selected, and I'm going to add the overwrite, so it should just drop it in to that point there. You can see that this clip here has an audio channel attached to it. It doesn't actually have any audio in there, it's just like sort of some silence, but it's a channel nonetheless. That's going to annoy me later on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disassociate those two things from each other. I'm going to right click on that clip and I'm going to go unlink. And it's going to make those two things separate. And now I'm just going to, whoops, I'm going to take that, I'm going to delete it. So now we've got two clips happening here. I'm just going to mute that. Oops, I'm going to mute that so that we can't hear it. And I'm going to play through and we'll just see where that cut happens. And then we've got our guy walking across the platform in slow motion. So let's do that a few more times. We've got a few clips to add to our timeline. And what I'm going to try and do is, I suppose, make the cuts happen where there's sort of pauses in the voice. So I've added this clip here, and there's a nice little pause here, but I've maybe made the clip a little bit too long, so I'm going to make sure I've got the selection tool selected, and I'm just going to drag that back a little bit, something like that, so I can go as far as I want as long as the clip is, but I'll pull it back to about there, and then move my timeline indicator to that point. If I hold shift down, it will definitely snap to that clip there. So let's do that again. We've got clip number 3. I've just added that to the timeline there, and you can see there's a black frame at the start, so I don't want that. I'm going to maybe create an in point there. I'm going to either click this little icon or I on the keyboard to create an in point, and then I'm going to create an out point somewhere over here, and then I'm going to drag that straight in. Again, this one, it's got an unnecessary audio track, so I'm going to delete that. Just unlink them. I'll hit delete on the keyboard there. So now we're getting a little bit of story happening here. Again, I've gone possibly a little bit long there. I'm going to maybe chop it at about this point here. And I reckon I'll add another clip. That's clip number 4. Now this clip's got a couple of shots in it, and I want to take out the people from this clip here. So I'm going to scroll through, maybe just right at the start there. I'm going to hit the in point. That was I on the keyboard, or this little mark in button. I'm going to scroll through to the point where it cuts to the furnace or whatever it is. Create an out point. And I'm going to drag that clip into that space there. And then I'll grab the other picture of this worker here and I'm going to create an in point there. And scroll through to about that point and add that to the timeline as well. So we've cut out those bits and those bits of sort of B-roll, and it's just the people now. So that's kind of good. Doesn't quite get to that cut there, but that's fine. Let's put the next piece in and making an in point and an out point, and then dragging that into the timeline. And we definitely don't need that much. Bring it right back down to here. That's looking pretty good. And then we can finish off our video with this last piece of footage here. And I might just drag that all in and just lock it off here so that that kind of matches up reasonably well. Now, a strange thing has occurred here. We've got the full frame here, but it's much bigger here, which means that that piece of footage that we've sourced is much bigger than our frame that we've got here. So we can fix that up by going to the clip menu option and going down to video options, and we're gonna set to frame size, and that's gonna bring it down to the correct frame size. And we've kind of matched up now all of this footage to our voiceover, and maybe we should just finish off by listening to a little bit of it, just very briefly. I'm going to hit the space bar to play, or you can come up here and click the play button. And oops, that's because our track is muted. Forgot that I muted it there.
Assets, our hard-working employees. At Industrial, care isn't just a word, it's a commitment. Our unwavering dedication to our...
There you go. So we've combined a series of footage cuts with our voiceover, and we can keep building on that in the subsequent videos. Add some background music, combine some images, and also some motion graphics. Catch you soon.